Taste of Love. Part 1. Anna Nicole stood before the majestic Victorian building in the historic Beacon Hill district, feeling the cool Boston wind caressing her face. Her slender silhouette reflected in the windows of the ancient facade, while the rays of the setting sun gave her chestnut hair a copper tinge. She wore an elegant white chef's coat that emphasized the natural grace of her movements, and black pants that hugged her long legs. She took a deep breath, savoring the aroma of freshly baked croissants from the neighboring bakery. The air carried the salty breath of the ocean wafting in from the harbor. Her green eyes with golden flecks carefully studied every detail of the building. This place was meant to become the embodiment of her dream, a fine dining restaurant where traditional Ukrainian dishes would get a new, contemporary interpretation. Daydreaming again, Miss Nicole? A low, velvety male voice made her start. That voice penetrated to her very bones, sending shivers down her spine. Turning around, she met a pair of piercing gray eyes. James Donovan stood a few steps away from her, radiating confidence with every movement of his perfectly built body. His dark blue Tom Ford suit fit him impeccably, emphasizing broad shoulders and narrow hips. The gray at his temples only added to his charm, creating the image of an experienced, powerful man. Mr. Donovan, Anna felt her voice slightly trembling. "I wasn't expecting to see you here." He moved closer, and she caught the scent of his cologne, a complex composition with notes of sandalwood, cedar, and musk. This scent seemed almost intimate in the cool evening air. "Really?" His lips curved in a barely noticeable smile. "I, on the contrary, was expecting you. I've heard many interesting things about your plans for this property." Anna straightened her back, trying to hide her sudden agitation. In his presence, she always felt a strange mixture of irritation and attraction. "Then you know I have serious intentions regarding this place." James took another step forward. Now he stood so close that Anna could see the golden sparks in his gray eyes. "Intentions are good, Miss Nicole. But the restaurant business requires something more. Like 10 years of experience? A Michelin star? Or perhaps an innovative approach to cuisine?" She lifted her chin, meeting his gaze. "Oh wait, I already have all of that." He smiled, and that smile did something incredible to his face. It lit up from within, making him look younger and more accessible. "Is your character as sharp as your knives, Miss Nicole? Come to the Culinary Festival next week, and see for yourself," she replied, feeling her cheeks flush. "Oh, believe me, I wouldn't miss that opportunity." His gaze slid over her face, lingering on her lips. "See you at the festival, Miss Nicole." He turned and walked away, leaving behind a trail of cologne and a strange feeling of emptiness. Anna watched him go, trying to calm her racing heart. She hadn't even noticed that she had been clenching her fists so tightly that her nails left marks on her palms. Only later that evening, sitting in her apartment overlooking the Charles River and preparing for the festival, did Anna realize that their meeting had left behind not just irritation, but a strange premonition of something inevitable. She closed her eyes and could still smell his cologne, see his penetrating gaze. Something told her that the festival would become the beginning of something bigger than just professional rivalry. Taste of Love. Part 2. The week flew by like a moment. The festival day greeted Anna with a cool morning. She stood in front of the mirror for a long time, hesitating between a business suit and an evening dress. Finally, she chose a black fitted dress with a deep back décolleté. The dress hugged her slender figure, emphasizing every curve. She gathered her chestnut hair in an elegant bun, leaving a few strands to freely frame her face. When she entered the festival hall, conversations momentarily quieted. Anna felt the gazes on her, but her eyes were searching for only one person. James stood by the window, talking to several well-known restaurant critics. His dark gray suit emphasized his broad shoulders, and the white shirt contrasted with his tan skin. When their eyes met, he stopped mid-sentence. Team number 3, Anna Nicole and James Donovan. The organizer's announcement made them both start. Fate has a strange sense of humor, James purred, approaching her. His cologne once again surrounded her with its intoxicating aroma. In the kitchen, sparks flew with every accidental touch between them. When their hands met reaching for the same ingredients, both felt electric currents running through their bodies. James stood too close while explaining the peculiarities of his signature sauce. His breath tickled her neck, and his deep voice made her whole body tremble. "Try it," he brought a spoon with sauce to her lips. Anna opened her mouth, not taking her eyes off his. A drop of sauce remained on her lower lip. James slowly wiped it with his thumb, letting the touch linger longer than necessary. The tension between them grew with each minute. Their culinary duel transformed into a kind of dance, passionate and dangerous. They moved in the kitchen like a single organism, anticipating each other's movements, complementing and supporting. "Your hands were made for this," James whispered, watching her work virtuously with the dough. His fingers slid along her forearm, as if by accident. Anna shuddered at his touch. "And were your eyes made to distract me from work?" she parried, feeling her pulse quicken. When the jury announced them as winners, joy flooded them both. James grabbed her by the waist and spun her in the air. Anna clutched his shoulders, feeling firm muscles under her fingers. For a moment, their faces were very close, and she saw his pupils dilate. Later, when they stayed to clean the kitchen, the tension reached its peak. Anna bent down to pick up a dropped spoon and felt his hand slide along her back, stopping at her waist. "James," she turned around, and their eyes met. "Quiet," he whispered, pulling her close. His lips covered hers in a deep, passionate kiss. Anna moaned, feeling her body melt in his embrace. His hands glided over her back, fingers tangling in her hair, destroying the perfect hairstyle. She wrapped her arms around his neck, pressing even closer. James lifted her and sat her on the kitchen counter, standing between her knees. His kisses became more demanding, descending from her lips to her collarbone. "You're driving me crazy," he whispered, unbuttoning her blouse. "From the moment I saw you by that building." Anna ran her fingers through his hair, feeling her body respond to every touch. His hands were everywhere, exploring every curve of her body through the thin fabric of her dress. She reached for his tie, slowly loosening it. "Not here," he suddenly said, pulling away from her lips. His eyes had darkened with desire. "Let's go to my place." Anna nodded, unable to speak a word. They barely waited for the taxi. The entire ride to his penthouse, they sat holding hands, feeling electricity running between their fingers. Taste of Love. Part 3. The penthouse door closed behind them with a soft click. Moonlight poured through the panoramic windows, creating mysterious shadows. James pulled Anna close, kissing her passionately. His hand slid over her body, exploring every curve through the thin fabric of her dress. "You're incredible," he whispered, unzipping her dress. The fabric softly fell to the floor, leaving Anna in ivory lace lingerie. She reached for the buttons of his shirt, slowly undoing them one by one. Her fingers trembled with desire as she touched his heated skin. James caught her hands, kissing each finger. "Don't rush," he purred, lifting her in his arms. "We have all night." Dawn found them in bed. Anna lay wrapped in silk sheets, watching as the first rays of sun touched James's bare torso. He was making coffee in the open kitchen, and the aroma of freshly ground Arabica filled the space. "What are you thinking about?" he asked, offering her a cup with perfect milk foam. "About how everything changed in one night," she replied, accepting the coffee. Their fingers met again, causing warmth in her chest. James sat beside her, pulling her close. "I was thinking about your restaurant," he said, kissing her shoulder. "What if we combined our forces?" Anna turned to him, searching his eyes for confirmation of his serious intentions. "Your talent and my business understanding, it's a perfect combination," he continued. "Just like us." Are you serious? She whispered. Absolutely, James took her face in his hands. You've changed not only my perception of cuisine but also of life itself. Epilogue. A year later, Fusion Soul opened its doors in that same Victorian building. Their restaurant became Boston's sensation, combining traditional Ukrainian cuisine with modern trends. Every evening, after closing, Anna and James stayed alone in the kitchen, experimenting with new recipes. Their passion for each other only grew stronger with time, just like their love for culinary arts. You know, James said one day, embracing Anna after another successful evening, sometimes the best recipes are born from the most unexpected ingredients. Just like the best love, she smiled, nestling against his chest. The end.